Welcome everyone, we're continuing our wonderful reading of this great book, the Federalist Papers, alright? Now, the founders of America, they gave us this wisdom. Let's learn about it, alright? Especially if you're going into political science, or you want to enter into the world of politics. Reading these books will give you an edge on your politicians because what they say stands true in itself, and our politicians are not well read today. They're just corporate puppets. So you reading this, you'll already have a higher degree of understanding than them, regardless of how many useless degrees they have. So, page 87, number 19. Let's continue. Out of this feudal system, which, remember, feudalism is a system of government's hierarchy, which has itself many of the important features of a confederacy, has grown the federal system which constitutes the Germanic Empire. Okay, federal system, Germanic Empire. He contends that, I hope he goes into what aspects of feudalism have a confederacy in it. I hope he expounds on that. Its powers are vested in a diet representing the component members of the confederacy. In the emperor, who is the executive magistrate. Okay, let's see. Okay. The emperor, who is the executive magistrate, with a negative on the decrees of the diet, and in the imperial chamber, and the Uclic council, two judiciary tribunals having supreme jurisdiction in controversies which concern the empire, or which happen among its members. Okay, so, two judiciary tribunals, Aulic Council, A-U-L-I-C, Imperial Chamber. Sounds like someone should put that on their bathroom door. Imperial Chamber. The Diet possesses the general power of legislating for the empire, of making war and peace, contracting alliances, assessing quotas of troops and money, constructing fortresses, regulating coin, admitting new members, and subjecting disobedient members to the ban of the empire. Subjecting disobedient ones to the empire. The ban of the empire. Okay, the diet. I was wondering what he was going to get on the diet point. What it necessarily entails, what it feeds on, right? What an interesting word to use, diet. By which the party is degraded from his sovereign rights and his possession fortified. Now, compare this to Thomas Hobbes' Leviathan. By which the party is degraded from its sovereign rights and his possessions forfeited. The members of the Confederacy are expressly restricted from entering into compacts prejudicial to the empire, from imposing tolls and duties on their mutual intercourse without the consent of the emperor and diet, from altering the value of money, from doing injustice to one another, or from affording assistance or retreat to disturbers of the public peace. Okay, notice this. Mutual intercourse or dealings with their economics without the consent of the emperor. This is point of regulation, right? Altering the value of money. So how much is the currency worth today? Federal Reserve will decide that, and some people who sit on the board of economic forums to decide what currency should mean in each country. The purchasing power based off of their GDP. Very interesting. Or so we hope. Inflation, deflation, all that. And the ban is denounced against such as shall violate any of these restrictions. The members of the Diet, as such, are subject in all cases to be judged by the Emperor and Diet, and in their private capacities by the Uclic Council and Imperial Chamber. Okay, so you get judged by the Emperor and Diet. What it feeds on. The general power of the legislating, right? The legislative body is the Diet, essentially. The Uclic Council and the Imperial Chamber. So you're getting judged by 4 sets there. The prerogatives of the emperor are numerous. The most important of them are, let's see what's the emperor's duty. His exclusive right to make propositions to the Diet. So, okay. So remember, that is the general legislation power for his country. To negative its resolutions, to name ambassadors, so he gets to pick the ambassadors, okay. to confer dignities, so titles and such, and titles, to fill vacant electorates, he feels that need. It's not a democracy. It's not a republic. To found universities, so the emperor gets to find universities, gets to start now. To grant privileges not injurious to the state of the empire. To receive and apply the public revenues, and generally to watch over public safety, so we hope. Now, this is where you get into the nuance of safety versus control, and what people do in the name of safety turns into mass control. In certain cases, the electors form a council to him. In quality of emperor, he possesses no territory within the empire, nor receives any revenue for his support, but his revenue and dominions in other qualities constitute him one of the most powerful princes in Europe. So true. Yes, Europe during this time, you got a lot of feudalistic chessboard. From such a parade of constitutional powers in the representatives and head of this confederacy, the natural supposition would be that it must form an exception to the general character, which belongs to its kindred systems. Nothing would be farther from the reality. The fundamental principle on which it rests, that the empire is a community of sovereigns. The empire is a community of sovereigns. So remember the confederacy point he made? That the Diet is a representation of sovereigns. The Diet, remember, that was the legislative general power. That tells you the representative of the power. Notice this. That's almost like saying your judicial branch, being the Diet of your nation, shows the health and the body thereof. Think about this. You are what you eat. So he's calling it diet. Now today, it's quite interesting, is you have people who are very upset with the justice system, who are saying this is a sign of infection, a sign of decay, something that we have to make better. So notice this terminology of diet, and how people in their natural language, through symbolism and other modes of trying to get a point across, use things like diet, the wing, wing of a bird, get it, the eagle. Wow, so what your nation feeds on, and then thinking about how that is really representative. So the Diet's, how he put it, was a legislative body. That'll show you who your people are who lead you. And today, you have people rioting because they feel that the criminal system, which laws were put in place through our governmental legislative body, caused this corruption and caused this problem, caused this cancer. Wow, that's a pretty cool thing of digging into the words. You see how reading Heidegger and stuff like that helps? Because you really start to get into the nuances of words. And that the laws are addressed to sovereigns, renders the empire a nerveless body. Renders the empire a nerveless body. When your nerves are irritated, it's just everything gets you off. Now, just yesterday in DC, there was 4 stabbings where Trump supporters and Antifa rioters, Biden voters and Harris voters, were going at it. They're so tense right now, and they're only focusing, the media seems to only want to condemn the violence by the Trumpies, and is sort of using the far left to get their point across. And corporations are now bearing the banners of those movements to sell more things. So it is really interesting how we're forgetting that the empire is meant to be at peace. But others would say that the behavior of the leader, of Trump, led to the chaos. However, others would argue the media did it. Both the media and Trump having a personal ego with each other, causing more tension and nervousness in the land, which makes people pop off, which has led to the anarchy. Because remember, he got into over here about how the imperial authority, if it can't maintain public order, it will decline into anarchy and will be agitated by long intervals of death, just reoccurring. So compare that to what he talks about, how the Diet represents the sovereigns. So you can totally see where he's going in there. Even without the Charlemagne and the Austrian examples and such, you can see how he wants us to have a different type of system here. Compare everything that they have said, Hamilton and Madison, to what a Marxist today at Berkeley would argue for. It's a big reason why we have a lot of illiterate political scientists, because they're not really being taught the Federalist Papers and such. They don't want to learn anything of the past. They want to focus on new woke politics and new woke agendas where it's the new way, and kind of disregard the old way simply because they're white men, right? Which is quite sad. These people are clearly brilliant. Wow. Renders the empire a nervelessness body incapable of regulating its own members. Okay, so incapable of regulating its own members. They're incapable of calming down the unrest at this point. That's why everything's boarded up. You saw the rioters when Macy's was looted, when Target was looted, when Wendy's was burned down. They're unable to control it. So they have a point.